कहत कबीर सुनो भाई साधो, कहत कबीर सुनो भाई साधो, अरे कहत कबीर सुनो भाई साधो, कहत कबीर सुनो भाई साधो। साहब मिले सबूरी में, अरे साहब मिले सबूरी में, मन लागो यार फकीरी में।
I have called this leg of my Rishikesh visit as a myth demolition tour. Yesterday we talked about the origin of myths, from where do all falsenesses, misconceptions arise. And it is a very important thing to look at them, because the obfuscation of the truth is happening all the time. It is not an isolated activity, not a discrete event. And then yesterday I had said that today we will take up one particular myth and seek to unravel it completely. So there were many prospective candidates, all equally fit to be taken up. We could have taken up the myth of joy, the myth of truth, the myth of beauty, the myth of yoga, the myth of bhakti, the myth of Shiva, the myth of moksha, the myth of sadhana, the myth of meditation. We could have taken up any of these. But then it occurs to me that instead of taking up spiritual sounding words, it is probably more important to take up something which is a little more earthly, a little more intuitive, a little more of the subconscious, a little more fundamental. So it comes to me that we must take up today the myth of the smile. The myth of the smile. Now that doesn't quite look like or sound like the topic of a deep spiritual session. It may not. And I'm not very interested in the session sounding right, sounding truthful, sounding spiritual. My interest rather is that the session must be truthful. What is this myth of the smile? The myth of the smile is the myth of pleasure. As I walk through the streets of this city, I see a large number of smiling faces. You see them everywhere, but the proportion strikes me as particularly high here. And then I look at all the posters and hoardings and photos of the teachers, masters, gurus. On the walls, in the shops, in the streets, and all are smiling. And as I looked at them, it reminded me of the commercials one sees in the so-called normal cities, worldly cities, cities of trade, cities of business, cities of transactions and commerce. There you do have a lot of smiling faces up there on the walls, hoardings, shops, shopping malls, smiles, smiles and smiles. What is a smile? As we are, a smile is an expression of pleasure. As we are, a smile is always there for a reason. As we are, a smile is a preferred state of consciousness. As we are, a smile is a dualistic opposite of a frown. As we are, a smile stands for a pleasant experience. Is it not obvious that this is what the truth has come to be equated to? Something pleasurable, something desirable, something nice, something sweet, something cute and cuddly. Something that makes you feel warm and secure. Something that strengthens your relationships, your existing orders, your set patterns of being, the peculiarities of one's personality. This is what the mind seeks in its normal run. Sustenance, security, pleasure, a feeling of comfort. And it is because the mind seeks these that the mind keeps coming to repeated, incessant suffering. The spiritual mind is the one that has decided to break away from suffering, that has had enough, that says, I want no more of the same patterns, no more of the same game of pain and pleasure, no more of the same cycle of smiles and frowns. The spiritual mind is the one that has the intelligence to realize that it is the desire of pain that protects pleasure, and that it is attachment to pleasure that brings about pain. It realizes that if you are not anxious, off-center or disturbed, then you also not have any special inclination to laugh. It has seen that all ends of duality, all patterns of behavior are just expressions of mental excitement, which is just turbulence and hence disturbance. It is to leave this cycle that the truth calls. Having turned once back to this cycle, that one turns towards the truth, but one must acknowledge the ego for its tremendous power to co-opt. The ego co-opts even the truth. It co-opts even spirituality. Instead of spirituality then being a departure from both pain and pleasure, spirituality instead becomes another venue for pleasure. I repeat, pain and pleasure are one. And anybody who hankers after pleasure is necessarily in great pain and will get pain. Except in a state of pain, it is impossible to desire pleasure. Pleasure begins from pain and ends in pain. Hence, the one who wants freedom from suffering must first want freedom from pleasure. Because suffering does not come on its own. Suffering has no legs of its own. Suffering comes riding on the legs of happiness. That is why it is so difficult to get rid of suffering, because to get rid of suffering is to get rid of happiness. The mind says, I want to avoid suffering but want to retain happiness. And if you want to retain happiness, then you have already retained suffering. The spiritual mind wants to get rid of both immediately because both are one. And even amongst these two, the one that is more sticky is pleasure, not pain. You do not want pain, but you want pleasure. That is why pleasure sticks to you. So the real enemy, the real problem is not pain at all. Nobody wants pain. Had it been a question of just dropping pain, mankind would have dropped pain long back. If pain has survived, it is because pleasure attracts. Man has been fighting pain while trying to protect pleasure, and that is an impossible thing to do. So the one who turns to truth must drop these two together. And even amongst these two, we just said that pleasure is the more tricky and sticky one, because mind is attracted towards pleasure. Rather, let's say that which the mind is attracted to, mind calls at pleasure. That is the very definition of pleasure. Whatever you are attracted to appears pleasuresome. Pleasure is not objective. Mind defines its own pleasures. If the mind finds it attractive, then it is pleasurable. Now, what does the truth mean to us? Does the truth mean sugar-coated nuts? A pleasant evening? Something nice to hear to? Some memorable experience worth taking home? The truth is none of these. If you look at any of the depictions of the old sages, the prophets, the seers, it would strike you that you don't see them depicted smiling. You would have hardly ever seen a depiction of an Upanishadic Rishi smiling. I do not know when you last saw a smiling photograph of Jesus. Krishna is talking to Arjun, and it's the battlefield, and neither of them is smiling. The Gita is not born out of smiles. Yes, the Buddha does smile, but his smile is absolutely faint and subtle, undetectable really. You look at the Prophet Muhammad or the Sikh Gurus and show me where is pleasure in their lives or in their face. Where is pleasure? Where do you find them or see them smiling? Was Mahavira smiling? Was Lao Tzu smiling? Was Kabir smiling? Was Farid laughing? More recently, if you have watched one of J. Krishnamurti's videos, do you really find him breaking into laughter? Do you really find him smiling often? Do you really find him happy? Or Ramana Maharshi, or Nisargadatta Maharaj? The truth has nothing to do with happiness. Truth is not the pursuit of happiness. The pursuit of happiness is the pursuit responsible for so much of the suffering of mankind. You chase happiness and it is inevitable that you will land in tears. And this is the one simple message of non-duality. This is the one single thing about spirituality. This side or that side, both sides lies the same abyss. The road is narrow. The spiritual mind neither has an attraction to pleasure nor an aversion to pain. In fact, if we look at what would really happen in the case of a seeker of truth, the story would turn out to be quite different. Who seeks truth? The ego, guided by the truth, seeks truth. Now, the call is that of the truth. And the very motivation, the intention is provided by the truth. But the seeker is still the ego. The seeker is still the ego. It is moving towards the truth because it has been illuminated by the truth. The engine is the truth and the destination is the truth. But do not forget that the mover is still the ego. We are talking of the spiritual seeker. The seeker is still the ego. Whenever a movement towards truth happens, it is a movement in progressive dissolution. You do not gain anything. With every step, you lose, you become lighter. Now, this process of becoming lighter is wonderful in the absolute sense. But it is actually hurtful in the relative sense, in the earthly sense. Relative to the seeker, relative to the ego, for the ego as the subject, it is indeed hurtful. Yes, of course, a witness may say that something beautiful is happening. The seeker of the truth is moving towards the center, and in moving towards the center, he is unburdening himself. He is getting rid of his conditioning, of his past, memories, beliefs, ways of living, relationships, his entire world. He is losing on it. So from a position of detachment as a witness, you would indeed say that something wonderful, something auspicious is happening. But how does the seeker feel when this happens? If it has happened with any of you, or if it is happening with any of you, you know how it feels when your world starts crumbling. Truth knocks at your door, and the very foundations of your house start trembling. It is not nice, it is not pleasant, it is not at all something that makes you happy. In fact, it makes you shiver and tremble, it arouses fear. And then you need faith to face that fear. The real seeker lives in a terrible conflict. On one hand is the inexorable call of the truth. He cannot deny it. He cannot refuse the invitation. On the other hand lies his old world. His family, his wife, his kids, his ways of thinking, his relationships, the expectations the world has from him, his debts, his old car, his memories, his childhood albums. Everything that he's fond of, everything that he's known for, all his established personality, all that is there. And he's attached to all of that. Remember, he's yet a seeker. He's not the arrived one. He's yet a traveler. And the traveler is carrying all these. A movement towards the center actually involves a lot of bloodshed. It is not all sugar and honey. Let me put it very bluntly. It's a battlefield. And one keeps on taking a lot of blows. And if you are a seeker, then you are prepared to take those blows. You are prepared to let your concepts, your erstwhile versions, your models of reality all be destroyed. It's a gruesome battle. You can even call it cruel. Where is the occasion to smile? Yes, one does smile, but then that smile is the smile that arises in the middle of a war. From a blood-stained face. And then that smile has a certain gravity, then that smile is really beautiful. Then it is not a fickle smile. Then it is not a smile arising out of one's regular patterns. Then it is not a smile of pleasure. Then it is a smile arising out of a deep joy. Remember that deep joy is the joy of Atman. But the ego is not the Atman. What the ego experiences is conflict and pain. In the middle of that conflict and pain, still one smiles. And that smile has a special quality about it. When your smile is not coming from pleasure, when you are smiling, even though you know that your world is crashing about you, then that smile has a certain worthiness. Only then, only then. Otherwise, what we call as smiles are just so cheap. They are so commercial. They are just an expression of our fickleness. When a Jesus stands ready to be crucified and he smiles, then that smile means something. When a Mansoor is being stoned and put to death, he smiles. And that is a man's smile. Kabir puts it very, very succinctly. He says, हंस हंस कंत न पाइया जिन पाया तिन रोए. हासत खेलत हरि मिले तो कौन दुहागन होए. He says, no one ever found the truth laughing. You cannot laugh your way to the truth. The road to truth is not full of pleasures and beautiful experiences. It is a road in which there is a fresh war at every step. And that war, mind you, is against yourself. You are not fighting anybody outside of you. You are chopping off your own limbs. Every step towards the truth is a liberation from your own personality. One does not feel nice. The emotions rebel. The thoughts argue. In 10 ways, the entire psychic system conspires to defeat the movement. If you ever meet a really spiritual one, know him by the scars on his face. He won't be smiling. He would have first passed through death. And it is not a romantic death. It's a gruesome death. What do you think? The Buddha was smiling when he left his wife, kid, and the empire behind? Smiling like this? Yes? Was he? Pay the price. The truth demands one's absolute sacrifice. You cannot meet the truth remaining yourself. If your intention is to remain yourself and in fact decorate yourself with methods, with ways, with skills and knowledge, and thus you hope to attain the truth, kindly get rid of your notions. One does not reach there remaining as one is. The self does not reach there by protecting itself. Yes, there is joy, but it's a deep joy. Yes, there is peace, but it's peace in the middle of great turbulence, disturbance, noise. Yes, there is stillness, but it is stillness in the middle of great chaos, total anarchy. On the surface, outside, one would experience only chaos, only anarchy. The Buddha leaves his wife and goes to the jungle. I'm asking you certain very basic things. Do you know mosquitoes? Do you know that they bite? Yes, of course, you do not expect this kind of a question in a spiritual session. But I am not so spiritual, so I want to ask you. Do you know how it feels when a mosquito bites you? And none of us are scions of royal families. The Buddha was. He was Gautam, the prince. Do you know how it feels when you are barefooted and insects of all kinds, and of course mosquitoes, are after you? Do you know that when you have a wife, you have a certain attachment to her? Do you know when you have a kid, then the kid is an extension of your personality? Do you know how it feels to leave them behind? You don't smile. The Buddha ran away in the thick of the night, in the cover of the night. There was guilt. There was pain. He would have looked at the wife's face. He would have cried. He would have kissed the forehead of the child. Do you see the sheer intensity of the pain involved? Do you know what it means to pay a price? Or what do you think? Spirituality is about buying colored kurtas and pajamas and roaming around with fancy beads and necklaces, and practicing yoga and walking around with yoga mats. Is this what will get you to the truth? Body piercing, tattoos, Buddha tattoos. You have something called the, I don't know what, Mahavira momos or something. Tattooing one's way to the truth. That hasn't ever happened in India, at least, and that has never happened in any part of the world. Do you know the cross? Do you know the cross? The cross is not a smile. In the old depictions, have you seen the emaciated bodies of a rishi? Have you seen how they look? You lose your pen or your cap or your undergarment, and it's a concern. Or is it not? Where is it? Where is the thing? And here is someone who has permanently lost it all. He is not going to return to his country. He has not come with a visa. He has actually left it. Can we even conceptualize what it means to actually leave? It's like non-existence. It's like not being there anymore. No one is special. We all are beings in flesh and blood. Be it a Buddha, Mahavira, a Krishna, a Ram, an Ashtavakra. All have the same brain. All are the same species. If you do not like it, when you lose one friend Do you think he likes it when he loses the entire world? Spirituality is not a pleasurable excursion. It is not about having a good time. Not at all. One does not come to the Ganga for a picnic. One comes to the Ganga to get dissolved. One does not come to the Ganga and go back. One then allows himself to flow right to the ocean. You cannot go back as you came. You cannot go back to the same place. How can you return? And that is meditation. Something from which it is impossible to come back. Meditation is a movement towards truth. It is not an isolated action. It is not something that you practice from 6 to 7 in the morning. Meditation is a continuous movement towards the truth. 24 hours, an entire lifetime. Irreversible. It is not possible to fly back in meditation. There might be many here whose very intention is to just have a good time and then resume their so-called normal life. They have my best wishes. But if there is somebody here who is really sincere, who has not come here to become a part of the crowd, who has not come here to indulge in the same foolishnesses that have unfortunately become the norm, then to him I say, do not try decorating your personality. Do not come for self-improvement. Trust the heart, have courage, and allow self-dissolution. That makes all the difference. Whether you are aiming for self-improvement or whether you have the sincerity and the courage to allow self-dissolution. Most of us just want an improvement of the self, not a dissolution of the self. And when you are wanting an improvement of the self, then you allow the same self-center to continue. Not only continue, actually reinforce, become thicker. You go back worse than you arrived. One arrives as a conditioned mass, and one finds that one is going back with more of conditioning. One already had a plastic face. Now the plastic face has been decorated. How does that sound? A tattoo on a plastic face. Where is the real face? movement towards the truth is about dropping all faces. There is no promise of a real face. Saints have repeatedly called the truth as cruel. He has been referred to as a butcher as well. Shiva dances destruction. All one's faces go, they are dropped. And when they go, then it is not pleasant for the one who had been carrying them. At least not immediately. Then one requires faith. And that is the test of the spiritual mind, whether it is faithful or not. If spirituality is about a set of practices, processes, methods, plans, schedules, then how is spirituality any different from that which you wanted to get rid of? The entire world is anyway full of man-made activity, where you know in the beginning what you would get, where you have 30-day schedules and tables. Smiles are beautiful, but one must first earn the right to smile. The kid has a right to smile. All innocence has a right to smile. One has to regain that innocence. One has to regain that unreasonable smile and unreasonable tears as well. And only then the smile is beautiful. Only then. Otherwise, smile is just an expression of our conditioning, I dare say our rottenness. We'll continue with your inputs and queries. Yes. Maybe we can reduce the volume here a little. Yes, please. The silence of the Buddha is a beautiful silence because it has no turbulence. But often what we call as our silence is just a defense mechanism. I want to protect myself, so I won't open up. I won't ask anything. Because if I ask, then there is the risk of annihilation. So I would rather prefer noise. This silence is not welcome.
Just to share something that came to me through what you were speaking, just in reference to the crucifixion of Christ, I started contemplating and understanding on a new level, for lack of better words, his state when he's looking down, saying, "Forgive them, Father, they know not what they do," or the imaginings of, say, a subtle smile when he looks over to someone on the cross next to him and says, I'll see you in paradise. In moments of absolute battle,
Despair.
absolute despair.
Yes.
You know, questioning for himself, God, why have you forsaken me, in a sense. You see these cries out, this conflict occurring, but then the last surrender at that moment, start to understand it on a level of compassion where you can feel
Have some empathy
yeah.
for Jesus. Do you know, from a mind like him, from a being like him, when these words arise, what do they mean? When he asks, "Father, why have I been forsaken?" And he has unshakable, pure, indomitable faith. And even one of that faith is compelled to ask that, "Have I been forsaken?" He's not smiling. He's being torn apart. And unless you are torn apart, you will not reach there. Unfortunately, most of what we indulge in, most of what we see here in the city is a protection against being torn. The gurus are welcoming you. Please come. We'll offer you stories that help you go to sleep. We'll tell you, "Oh, you are in the protectorate of God. We are all one family." And then you can go to the guru and hug him like a teddy bear and get yourself photographed. The real guru is a destroyer. He doesn't make you feel comfortable. You want to run away from him, just as you run away from the truth. And that's one mark of the real teacher. He has no stake in pleasing you. He's not speaking to crowds. He's not counting numbers. You won't like him really. The real teacher is often very dislikable. And that is why he is real. The fake ones are all shopkeepers, sir. How many disciples did Jesus have?
12.
When Jesus would speak, a dozen people would listen to him, and that was the upper limit. Okay, maybe 15 someday. And here you have crowds of thousands. How is it possible that Jesus got 10 and somebody is attracting thousands and millions? Don't you see the obvious contradiction? How can we be so blind? How many students was the teacher of the Upanishad talking to? 2, 4, 6, 10, and that's all. The entire city of Jerusalem had gathered at the time of crucifixion, and they wanted death to Jesus, with or without television. So it is not as if nobody knew him. They knew him and they wanted him dead. The real teacher is hardly ever likable. He doesn't give you a lullaby. He doesn't give you a nice space where you can go and sleep in the middle of the session. And this one really overwhelmed me. You're going to teachers who are offering you nice spaces where you can go and relax in the middle of the session. I'm wondering, Krishna is speaking to Arjun and Arjun says, "May I take a little nap?" What's going on? What's happening? Ashtavakra is talking to Janak and Janak dozes off. What's going on? Are you going to a satsang or to some luxury resort? Being with the Guru is a discipline. It demands that one exceeds himself. It demands that one breaks out of his patterns. And that is no act of chivalry. You get no medallions for that. Nobody will come and praise you for that. It involves a lot of sweat, tears, blood, crisis, conflict. One cries. Do not put an Ashtavakra, Jesus or Buddha on a pedestal. Do not make them extraordinary. They were like you and me. Remember the mosquito. One mosquito and we are disturbed. And how does it feel when one nail after the other is piercing your body? Yes, you are bleeding. If you are bleeding, it means your body has blood. If your body has blood, it also has a nervous system. If it has a nervous system, you feel pain. And you retain the faith in the middle of that pain. Now you can smile. Now you can smile. Only now. There is a man in the crowd who is shouting, "Death to the heretic." And they were shouting that way. They could have pardoned Jesus. The crowd had that right to waive off the death penalty. They didn't use that. They wanted death for him, and somebody is there laughing, death to that fellow. And there is Jesus, smiling the subtlest of smiles. How do you want to smile? Like the man in the crowd? Like the man in the street here? Or like Jesus? How do you want to smile? Next time you smile, ask yourself, how am I smiling? And remember the cross. Only when you are hoisted on the cross that the real smile then rises from you. The real smile. Now you know what it means to have a still center in the middle of of worldly foolishness. Yes, please.
I guess I'm realizing as well, reflecting on situations with Christ, being in a space or a representative of union with truth and speaking without condition, we can see the truth say clearly comes with a sword, or to turn brother against sister and father against, that kind of chaos, not only externally but internally as well.
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
And when,
So
as Jesus, as you say, that I have come with a sword, I have not come for peace, I have come to set the son against the father and the daughter against the mother, when you say that kind of
That's
a thing,
not a reason to smile.
is the society going to forgive you? Are they going to take it kindly? Are they going to send you letters of gratitude? Will you then have 1,000 people coming to listen to you? Whenever the truth has been spoken, it has had very rarefied audiences, very few takers. And I'm asking you, do you want just another soap opera? Or that which you really deserve, the truth? Please open up, please speak. Yes.
Is it okay to have that secret smile and still experience the waves of the more superficial smile and superficial frown?
Yes, you see, you're asking, is it okay to have that smile in the middle of the superficial experiences, the superficial smile, superficial frowns, superficial pain and pleasure, and the rest of it? The answer that I will give will be an irrelevant answer, because you're asking, is it okay to have the real smile? The real smile is not your smile. It arises in spite of you. You will have all the reasons to be crying, and you are actually crying. And in the middle of the tears, the smile arises. Now, what is the use of asking, is it okay to have that smile? When you're asking, is it okay to have that smile, you're actually assuming that you have an option to not to have that smile. It is not your smile. It will not come out of your volition. It arises from another center, and that is why it is so beautiful. It is not your smile. Then it is God smiling through you.
The question is communicated to have God's smile.
To have?
To have God's smile.
Yes.
But then to still have the smile of the poster.
The smile of?
On the posters,
Ha.
in shops,
Ha, ha.
etc.
See, you cannot have God's smile. God's smile does not come in ways appointed by you. Please understand. When you look at the face of a Jesus, you don't see him smiling. God is actually smiling through him. Our smile, please remember, is a pattern. It is a geometrical pattern, it is a physical pattern. Certain muscles here and here get moving, and then what you call is a smile. Right? It's a physical thing. It's a thing of the eyes. It is a thing of touch. God's smile is a totally different thing. If you're really immersed right now, you are smiling. Some of you might be thinking that I'm animated, but there are others here who know that I'm smiling. Have you ever looked at a depiction of Shiva? Shiva is always smiling, but his face is so calm. When God smiles, he does not smile in ways approved and sanctioned by man. Are we getting it? Yes, yes, please.
It's not really a question, but I feel inside as if I have to see it.
Feeling?
I feel inside like I have to see the truth.
Yes.
As ego.
Yes.
It's like all of my suffering and everything that has ever happened needs to be solved by seeing the truth as ego, and I can't let that go. It's like I'm gripping on to everything, and there's a feeling inside that I can't be genuine because of that.
Matthew, the thing here is that truth cannot be witnessed. You are saying you want to see the truth. You cannot see the truth because there is nothing separate from the truth. You want to see the truth as if you are separate from the truth. The truth cannot be witnessed. Only truth can look at truth, because there is only truth. And if only truth can look at truth, then you cannot be the one who is looking at truth. You will have to go. And when you are gone, it is truth looking at truth and smiling. And if you don't have the courage or intention to go,
I am thinking about monkey. I went today to Nilakantha Mandir. There I saw that a group of monkey was laughing.
One?
A group of monkey was laughing
Yes,
together.
yes.
I got enjoyed. Was that real laugh?
that was just physically conditioned. The monkey does not always laugh. The monkey laughs when there is something conducive to its physical being. Good food, good weather, good sex, something. So the monkey's laughter is purer than our laughter, because our laughter is not only physically but also socially conditioned. We laugh when we have a bigger car than the neighbor, which is an entirely social thing. The laughter of the monkey is also a conditioned laughter, but the conditioning is only at the physical level. So the laughter of the monkey is still the laughter of Prakriti only, but better than our laughter. No monkey meets another one in the morning and smiles and says good morning, when it might actually be bad weather. No monkey would smile and fake an orgasm. If he is smiling because he got a good mate, he would actually have had good sex and then smile. So much about our smiles is so fake, cheap and conditioned. I'm not saying this because I do not like smiles. I'm saying this because I'm in love with the real smile. Kindly do not get me wrong. It is not that I do not like smiling faces. I'm in love with the face that really smiles. And I know that all of us are capable of that smile. And it's a tragedy if that smile is not occurring to us. It is the fake smile that is blocking the real one. That is why I must talk about the fake one. Do you know how beautiful you look when you really smile? Have you ever seen your face with God reflected in it? Do you know how beautiful your face is when God smiles through you? We have no idea of our beauty because real beauty cannot be our idea. We keep trying to decorate ourselves and we forget that when we have done away with all the decoration, then our real beauty shines, which incidentally is not our beauty. I like to pause in the middle of anything intense like this session, and I like to watch your faces. And if you're really in it, then I see God there. Then I see beauty there. That helps me continue. You look so beautiful. Then, only then. Unfortunately, most of us lose it after they are out. Then again, that same social smile returns. How nice you look right now. If some social fellow happens to drop in, he will say, oh, it looks like a very somber, serious thing. No one is smiling. But if a man of any wisdom comes here and sees, he will say, everybody is smiling. The whole occasion is smiling. And it's so beautiful. Krishna would continue to be Krishna. He would not wear a fake smile even for his Facebook account. What do you think? Krishna is going to have his DP clicked and the photographer will say cheese and he'll smile and he is already smiling. We are blind if we cannot see him smiling when he is instructing Arjun to kill his own kin. That sounds horrible. He is instructing Arjun to kill his own brothers. That's the smile of Krishna. Real body piercing. Arjun, pick up your bow and arrow and pierce their bodies. Not body piercing of the kind where you have the earlobe or the nostrils or the navel or other parts of the body. Gently pierced. Here you have this long an arrow and it pierces your heart. And that's the smile of God. Afraid of arrows? Forget God. peace is not something nice. Peace will always be in the middle of disturbance. And the mind-body apparatus will keep experiencing that disturbance. When the mosquito bites, it hurts. It hurts even the Buddha. When a relationship breaks down, it leaves a wound behind. When the Buddha had to return to his wife, of course not as the husband who left her, not as anybody, but he had to complete the cycle. There was a loose end left behind. And the father scolded, and the wife cried. The father was still scolding him. In the mind of the wife, the relationship was still alive. That's life. That's raw spirituality for you. You have gone off at a tangent. The world still believes that you are going around in the circle. You have left. But for the world, you are still here. For the mosquitoes, you are still flesh. For the mother, you are still a son. For the woman, you are still a man. And they keep asking you, they keep reminding you, they keep begging you, they keep imploring, they keep requesting, they keep forcing. The entire world is still upon you. You're living it, you are in the middle of it. It's a bloody war. That's why the setting of the Bhagavad Gita is so awesome. In the middle of the war, there is the greatest sermon. Always in the middle of the war, remember. It's not about social niceties. It's an exchange of blows. Death is reigning. The field of Kurukshetra is this world where death keeps reigning every moment. You have to kill, and you are being killed. Now let's talk yoga. The battlefield is the yoga mat. And you cannot sit there with your eyes closed in a particular posture. You have to open your eyes. Without a destruction of all that is false about us, no hope of the true must be entertained. If we are insistent about remaining who we are, about protecting ourselves, if we are serious about our identities, then we can continue to be serious. if we take our self-concepts, our thoughts, our opinions quite seriously, then we can continue to live in our opinions. Truth is not for those who take their opinions seriously. If we have great priorities in life, then we can continue to hold those priorities. Truth is not for those who have any priority other than the truth. I repeat, my intention is not to be harsh. I have greatest respect for what one really is, what you and I really are. I have great respect for your reality. And that is why I speak. So that the real may express itself. I want exactly what you want. Don't you want all that to drop, which binds you, limits you? Do you want that to remain? Don't you want to fly free? I too want the same. And one cannot respect beauty and ugliness evenly. One cannot respect the true and the false equally. When one has great respect for the truth in you, then one is bound to be impatient with the falseness that we are unnecessarily wearing. It is your deepest desire to be really yourself. Is it or is it not? Is it or is it not? Or do you want to be carrying this rotten thing in the mind for all time to come? How long will we keep denying ourselves? Deep within, we all know that the false is false. We all are intelligent, we all understand. I'm calling out your understanding. If I'm speaking to you, it is because I have faith that you will understand. In fact, I know that you already know. I just want to plead that when you already know, why do you go against your knowing? Why do you want to defeat your own deepest intention? Why do we act against ourselves? We want freedom and we protect our own bondages. Why?
Fear of self-exposure. Fear of self-exposure.
Yes, of course. Have faith. Have faith. When this will go, you will not be left without support. In fact, it is because the false keeps gripping us that we think that one needs support all the time. The very question that if I leave all my existing support structures, then what will happen of me? This very question arises out of the assumption that you need some support. I want to say that you are powerful, immensely powerful beyond measure. When all the support systems are gone, you will find that you do not need any support. Dare to call the false as false. Do not feel compelled to follow the crowds. No one is obliged to live in any set pattern. Yes, please.
It was just on the topic of support and then no longer requiring support. I just wanted to explore in reference to the Bhagavad Gita, just to get clarity and understanding. When we see at the start Arjuna dropping his weapon and breaking down, we see him identified with being Arjuna, this ego, this self. So therefore he's in duality and seeing that. We understand that already. To then going through a state where Krishna, which could be a reflection of his true self within him, having this dialogue of support in a sense, helping him come to the realization of self, where we see him then pick up his weapon and no longer is Arjuna in the previous identification killing, through him killing is occurring. After that occurs, let's just say the story was to continue on, would he then require Krishna, or has he now then become self-realized to then continually live in a state of union with truth, or union with no condition?
You said that Krishna is a representation of who Arjun really is.
Yes. So so it would be like a temporary support of self-realization.
It varies. It varies. One cannot capture it in a model.
Yeah.
What happened was that after the 18 days, Arjun had to again come to Krishna and say that I forgot what you told me in the beginning of the war. And Krishna actually scolded him. He said, you must be really dumb to forget all that. Additionally, he said that even I cannot recapture what I said then.
Yes.
But I will again say something. And what Krishna then said is captured in the Uttara Gita.
Okay, I need to explore that myself. I'm still learning.
So that happens.
Good, That
But
was
what happens later on and what has happened before, none of that matters. What really matters is the happening. That do not forget that the Gita is possible only when Arjun is in touch with Krishna. First of all, Arjun chooses Krishna as his charioteer. That's a great indication. The Gita is always waiting to happen. You only have to come in contact with Krishna. There are Arjun's brothers all around him. There is also the other army with its generals. Krishna doesn't speak to any of them. Why doesn't Krishna speak to any of them? Is Krishna being selective? No. Krishna speaks to the one who comes to Krishna. So when the mind goes to the heart speaks to the mind. The heart is forever speaking, but the mind listens only when it is in intimate touch. So come close, maintain the touch. That's the hint. Otherwise, from a distance, one can keep watching. Yudhishthir would have been watching, and Duryodhan would have been watching, and they would have seen these two fellows talking. Now you may see that, but unless you partake, you really don't get anything. Huh? Two lovers are in an intimate embrace. What will an onlooker get? That's a relationship between the mind and the self, the teacher and the student. It's a relationship of an intimate embrace. The onlooker can keep watching from a distance. What is he getting?
So when we're looking at, you're saying Krishna's not speaking with the other individuals. So just to confirm, then it would be Arjun's desire for liberation that brings out of Krishna those words that liberate him. So if, for example, I was to be in that situation myself,
you'll get a Krishna.
I'll get my own wording and my own blessed song to liberate me through my language.
For every Arjun, there exists a unique Krishna. You don't have to search for Krishna. Your Krishna will appear in front of you. You start looking for yourself. And when you are honestly looking at yourself, then your honesty manifests itself as Krishna. You cannot look outside of yourself. You can only look at your own life. What am I doing? How am I walking? What am I eating? How are my relationships? Do I feel compelled to save for the future? What am I planning? Where am I going? You start with this. But you start with this honestly. And then the honesty comes before you in some material form as well. The material form could be anything. It could be a tree. It could even be an idea. It need not be a person. It could be a group of people. It could even be a building or a river. But it will express itself. And because Arjun is no one being, Arjun is the mind of Arjun, which keeps changing. It's a flow. So even Krishna will keep changing. Krishna in fact does change. What else are the 18 chapters of the Gita? Krishna is showing one face after the other.
So would we then explore, if we were to say look at a different, another teacher like Christ, when we look at say him explaining when he returns to the Father, he will send in his name the Holy Spirit to bring into remembrance everything he has taught. Would you then look at that as a similar symbology or mythology to the different faces of
course.
So then,
was Jesus the same to marry the mother and to marry the lover?
No.
But he brought the truth to both of them.
Yes.
Or did he not? Was Jesus the same to Judas and to the other disciples? But in his unique way, he brought truth to all of them.
So if we develop the eyes to see this, would we then see truth in all interactions?
We
that
develop
would
those
face?
eyes when we forget all about truth and look only at ourselves. Till the time we are looking out with these eyes and hoping to find the truth somewhere out there, we'll just keep hoping. The purpose of this whole sensory mechanism and this mind and its limit and its right application is to look at itself. The eyes will only look at the world. When you look at the world, look at it sharply, honestly. The world includes yourselves. As you look at this thing, as you also look at this thing, both are the world. Just as you look at all that is happening out there, you also look at what is happening in here. That's also an event. Huh? And that's only thing that you are designed to do. Our whole apparatus, the sensory mechanism, allows us nothing more. Mind can only think, eyes can only see, ears can only hear. Let these operate with honesty. Let these operate with honesty. People say that the truth cannot be seen. But in another sense, the fact is totally different. Only the truth can be seen. You can really look at the truth using these two eyes. You do not require even a third eye. Huh? Metaphorically, you say that to look at the truth, you require the third eye of the Shiva. No. With these mortal eyes, you can see the truth. With these very ears, you can hear the truth. Provided there is that basic, simple honesty. Come to the facts, and you are so close to the truth. What else will you use? As a man, as a woman, as a human being, what else do you have? You have this brain, right? You have these eyes. Or will you get some extra terrestrial sensory mechanism? Whatever you do, you will do using this apparatus only. So use this rightly. Simple. You are living in relationships. Know your relationships. You are living with memories. Know your memories. You are following religious practices. Know what you are following. That's all. You are engaging in certain behavioral patterns. Know from where those patterns have come. And in that indeed they are patterns. Know why you wear something. Know why you don't wear something. Know why you eat something. Know why you don't eat something. Know what compels you. Know what repulses you. And that knowing, I repeat, is not another act because you already know. So you don't even need to try to know. There is nobody who does not know. We just keep denying that we already know. That's why the only word that is left is honesty. Don't deny. When you have seen it, why are you acting that you have not seen it? We are all God, pretending to be something else. Pretending and suffering. Do you want to continue with the pretense? Sir God,
I'm realizing that I can't really trust my senses or my perceptions or my mind, and somewhere I know that that whole structure has been born in response to my perception of society. Now,
Do you trust this statement? If you cannot trust anything that arises from within you, why are you trusting this statement? This too has come from you. So you have something that you are absolutely trusting. You just use the word realized. We all have that. Mr. God just got a companion, another God. Even if you see that your whole system is untrustworthy, haven't you seen? From where are you seeing? Surely there is something that is enabling you to see. And it's beautiful. You opened your eyes and you only saw chaos, destruction and bloodshed. But it at least tells you that you are now beginning to. I open my eyes and what do I see? Dirt and filth and ugliness. But if I see dirt and filth and ugliness, it proves that I am at least seeing. You are paralyzed, numb, and one day you start feeling a great pain in your hand. That great pain suggests that now the hand is coming alive. And whenever you will come alive, it will begin with pain. So don't be afraid of pain. Whenever you will open your eyes, you will only see ugliness around. That should not deter you from opening your eyes. Beauty lies not in what you see with open eyes. Beauty lies in seeing itself. It is not in the object that you see, it is in the seeing. And when you see, you are beautiful. You might be seeing a most ugly object, and that ugly object could be you. You are seeing that you are so damn ugly. But in seeing how ugly you are absolutely beautiful. Because you are seeing. Continue to see. Fear will prevent you from seeing. Continue to see. Continue to acknowledge ugliness. The acknowledgement is beautiful. Do not feel compelled to label the ugly as beauty. The ugly must be called ugly. And the faith to call the ugly as ugly is beauty. I've seen some of the most authentic smiles in the middle of tears. Do you know how nice it is when... And cheap is the smile that is not accompanied by tears. Do you know what it means to really cry? it's socially unacceptable to cry, right? In public at least. So we put up a smiling face. Have the guts to cry out in public. Why must you continue the mutually deceptive practice of telling each other that all is fine? Is all really fine? Is the day really good? Are you really doing all right? Then why do you feel obliged to say so? And remember that in deceiving the other continuously, you come to a point where you start deceiving yourselves, where you start believing in your own nonsense. Continuously telling the other, I'm good, I'm good, you actually start feeling as if you are good. You are not. Nobody is. This world is not. This world is in a state of despair.
I'm trying to now address something. As we go through, I guess it seems at this state for me an unfolding process where I become aware of even the most subtle conditioned love that occurs. We might get lost in states of what we could perceive as unconditional love, as we're not necessarily engaged in activity that is what we would look at the norm, to even be involved in admiring the beauty of a mountain or to be in a beautiful environment for weeks at a time, and to then leave that area and to feel the suffering. We can get lost in that conditioned love for even a long, like from my experience, a long period of time before we realize this was conditioned.
You can be lost for a long period, and that long period could be centuries long.
Yeah.
It could be infinitely long. There is no guarantee that you will necessarily break out of that period.
Yeah.
It requires grace.
So would we then look at it as a caterpillar, cocoon, butterfly situation where the process that occurs,
where the
will happen when the
caterpillar
time is,
wants to continue as the caterpillar and refuses to metamorphose.
or the caterpillar, like we might be like a caterpillar continually seeking when are we going to become the butterfly,
Right.
and in doing so our awareness
That's
is not
better
actually
put.
within
That's
the caterpillar.
even better put.
Yeah,
That's even
yeah.
better put.
We must be the caterpillar in order for the metamorphosis.
So the butterfly
to
might be
occur.
believing it's a caterpillar
Yeah.
and seeking then to become a butterfly. Huh?
And then we see that.
And practicing meditation. And continuously engaging in the inquiry, who am I?
Yeah.
The butterfly, which believes itself to be the caterpillar, wants to become the butterfly. Do you know how beautiful you look right now? We misuse the word sexy. We use it so damn cheaply. This is sexy. God is the epitome of sexiness.
It's because you're naked. the conditioning is removed. Let it go.
Just stay as you are. That's the whole business of truth. That's all. Just stay as you are here right now. Is it so difficult? Is it difficult? If you can really love yourself as much as I am loving you, you would not want to drop what you are right now. If you could really know the worth of this silence, then you would not allow it to be corrupted. Just stay like this. It's not difficult at all. The streets will call out to you. The phone will ring. The messengers are everywhere. They'll stretch out their hands. They'll want to pull you. The shops are open. The beds are calling. And the world will pull you from 10,000 different directions. But still, just stay as you are. It's not difficult, and it's so that
What you helped me realize this morning when I was exploring things a bit further was in being aware of the space that I existed in, or my kingdom. I was spending a lot of effort constructing the house of cards to be beautiful, and it would last at times a very long time, but it would always crumble, and I would
and would demand protection.
Yeah, and I would look at it and go, well, I understand that the suffering is happening, but it was worth this bliss. So I was justifying it, this illusion within my head, but then to realize that the process of surrendering or letting go is not only effortless and requires nothing, it's the natural state of grace is always being available. And I was previously constructing things to get that conditioned love when the unconditioned love is
and proving
always
your own
there.
hypothesis to be factual.
Yes, exactly.
You set up a hypothesis, then you act according to the hypothesis,
Yeah.
and then you conclude that the hypothesis is verified.
Yeah,
Also self-contained.
yeah.
There's never much to say. You see, it always comes to this silence. And one must then live in it. Left to myself, I would never say anything. I only say something because there is a need. You come. Now there is just this. And the river, which is such good fun. And this. We don't need that. Apparently the river is not silent. There is great fun in the flow of the river. It practices no silence. But this flow is the silence. This beating against the rocks, this relationship with the banks, this conferring with the sands, all of this is happening. And in the middle of that, there is silence. And what is happening is so naked. The river doesn't hide anything. And these waves, these rocks, these sands, these banks, that is life. Nothing to be avoided here. Also primitive, also ancient, also naked, also uncovered. And that is silence. It is not a silence that you hear with the ears. The ears will only take this as noise. Oh, they may even call it music. Doesn't matter the name the ears give. It's a totality that is silence. Totality of everything. Things are happening, things are coming, things are going. People are coming to take bath. There are fish inside, procreating, dying. And all that is silence. All that is silence because it is not corrupted, because it is pure and naked. Because it does not shy away from expressing itself, because it is a total expression itself. It has nothing to prove. It just expresses. And when the expression is without the need to prove, then the expression is beauty. Is the river ambitious? Does the river really want to reach anywhere? Is it well decorated? Is it knowledgeable? None of that. And still so beautiful. And apparently so foolish. You look at all the surf there. The flow is not smooth. There are so many rocks. And the river is continuously pushing, beating against them. You can even call it conflict. And it is conflict, because life is conflict. This flow is conflict. The banks are deciding the limits. The rocks are obstructing the flow. The glacier is controlling the quantity. Outwardly, when you are one with nature, then inwardly what you have is called pure self, truth or samadhi. And when you are one with nature, then you do not look pretty in a social way. Do not be afraid of looking unpretty socially. You can go to the river and keep smiling at it for months and years. The river will not smile back. But in just being what it is, in just being the river, it is giving you so much. It will not give you its smile. It is offering its entire being. Just by being the pure flow, it reminds us of something very profound. Just by being. Do not give the other person your smile. Give him your naked essence. Give him your pure being. And that giving is not a transaction. You are just being what you are. And in being what you are, you have given what needed to be given. You have made no special effort. You are not even conscious that you are giving something. You are just being what you are. The Ganga has nothing to do with what is happening right now here. But in just flowing, she gave us so much. So just flow. Your flow is the smile. Your flow is the silence. I almost feel like apologizing to you for saying so much. But yes, because our social ears are trained to accept only this much. And anything beyond that is an act of indecency. You find it alright to shake hands with someone. But tight embraces are not that common.